А сьогодні приїздом в Києві перебуває Patric Mayers, і зараз він може сказати декілька слів про себе і свою компанію, і ви також можете задати йому питання. Тому ми запрошуємо його на сцену.
And sorry, I interrupted because I was traveling in the car to Kyiv today. Yesterday I arrived in Kiev, so it's a little bit running around now. And I was invited 1 hour ago to come to here. So I don't have a presentation or something. Was the idea maybe to show a website. I have a presentation. Maybe it's possible to share it. Oh, okay, that's fine. That I gave yesterday. On an event somewhere in Kiev for Rethink. It's for sustainable architecture, urban development. But Oleg, because of Oleg, I'm here. Because it was 2003 when I drank too many vodka in Kharkiv. It's not done that much anymore. Oleg invited me in 2003 after I won some competitions in the Netherlands. I was a young architect in that time. Then I was here in Kharkiv, or when I was in Kharkiv. A connection there was also in 2010. Viktor Zotov organized it. We also worked in Russia. We had also a project in Kiev, in the city center, when the war started. Within 1 week, we stopped all our work in Russia. We had a big project in St. Petersburg, 400,000 square meters. It's called the Golden City. We also had a big project in Moscow. We full stopped because it was not fun anymore. And we started supporting Ukraine because of the connection we had with Oleg and also other people. We also helped for Rotterdam to have refugee housing. Also Oleg was involved in Ukraine. We did it in Rotterdam. But then, one step at a time, I got involved also in the organization UN. It's a Dutch organization to help Ukraine spatial design. It was founded 2 years ago on the roof of the Dutch Architectural Institute. Because I also saw the struggling what you have in Ukraine with urban development, with architecture, also fighting to make good architecture, also fighting to do something sustainable. Because I will want to ask you a question: what you think about sustainability, and what you think it is, and what you can think we can do with it. So 2 years we are already working now on it with UN. We are not doing projects because it's different than Roskilde is doing. They are doing real projects in Ukraine. They have the boots on the ground. They have also a big organization with Ukrainian architects, urban development, developers even, landscape designers, urbanists. We are in Holland. A lot of us, the Dutch people, don't know or maybe didn't visit. We also have a lot of Ukrainian people that fled before the war, or already before the war were in Holland, that they want to do something. So we have really people coming to us, can I do something? Can I do something? We also have to say, we have to see how they can help. On the other thing, it's also it's not the right word, good, but it's also sometimes good to have a pause to think about things, what you want, what it should be. And every bad thing, there's also an opportunity, and the opportunity you have now, because besides the war, there's also a world crisis going on environment. You also lived in Ukraine, or it showed also some examples of post-war development, what was really vast in your cities, even in the Dutch cities also. And if you want to do new things, what should it be? What could it be? I think the younger generation now here, that's sitting here, have an opportunity to think together, to make errors, to try, but to do it yourself. And I think also one part of now is that because if I speak Ukrainian, they use the word problem a lot of times in the sentences. And it means sometimes that you're not in control, you think you're not in control, or you think you can't change things. And I think it's nice for the younger generation that you're now working on it. A lot of people now are here, a lot of people are involved. Also because of Oleg, that is giving the younger generation a platform to think, to work together. There's also something difficult sometimes to do, to put yourself open and to help each other, to be vulnerable and to making errors and to be creative, because it's a very scary thing, because you can also be judged on your creative thoughts and ideas. Was it able to have the presentation? No? Okay. I don't have things of UN now. I can tell you a little bit about what we do. We have now, after 2 years, a foundation formed. It's a legal organization. And from now on, we are able to get funding.
We can't open presentation because letter didn't arrive. We don't know how it is.
No, but it's also fine. I will show some projects. It's not about my
website. I'm
not going to give you a portfolio of what we do with Orange. It's more that we are looking for ways how to help. With UN, so I was talking about UN. This foundation at the moment we have. We have 3 supervisory boards, so 3 main people. There's a former ambassador, Dutch ambassador of the Netherlands. We have a professor of the TU Delft, and we have someone of Klingendaal Institute. It's a strategic institution in the Netherlands. It's also part of Julia Westerveld, Soldat Westerveld. She's a member of it, and she's also in our board. And we have 3 Ukrainian people, Pavel Khodorkovsky, Yelena Shevchenko, and Alexandra Tkachenko. So that's very difficult for me to pronounce. And I'm the only Dutch guy. We do 3 things. We are networking. First one I started 2 years ago. I know some people in Ukraine, so I asked, give me some names of architects in Ukraine. Oleg was always the number 1. Victor number 2. Balbec I heard, and some other names. But it's also a little bit weird for 44 million people that you have not a long list of known architects. I think you know the reason why, but I think it's also good to have more names, because there will be, or there isn't, a vast amount of work to do for the future. Not only to rebuild, but also to make projects more sustainable. And I think this is an important one, because it's not, everyone thinks it's about doing something extra, it's spending more money, but it's not. Yes, it's sometimes also more expensive, but it's also an attitude. And the attitude is that you want to be in balance with your surroundings, that you make projects even in a high density urban areas, that you do things for the good, not only for the good for the building, not only good for making profit, that projects are realizable, but also profitable for the biodiversity, profitable for energy, profitable for society, that how we live together. So we say also in the Netherlands, we have now projects with apartments, from average apartments going from 100 square meters to 50 square meters. So they're shrinking the apartments, and there are more of them, because we in 20 years, I think 30 years time, we grow with 33%, so it's from 50 million to 20 million at the moment. So, and Holland is very small, you don't have any space left, so if I want to have my dog a real walk, I have to go with a car for 1 hour to the nearest big forest. So that's a little bit of a problem in the Netherlands. And I think a lot of cities are coping with the same things. You have, of course, way more space, way more forest, way more nature. But I think it's all about how you live in balance, how you can live in balance with your surroundings. So we say it's fine. Even make all your cities more dense, because if you make more dense cities, you have less movement of cars, better profitable or realizable amenities in the neighborhoods. Because if you have a shop and there's only 500 people living around it, the shop owner is not that well with his yearly income. So you can make better amenities in neighborhoods if you have a higher density of people. If it becomes too dense, of course, it doesn't work. But that is what we're looking for. So we make now in the Netherlands, we'll show you a project we won the Best Building of the Year award in the Netherlands. It's a very social building, and it's a lot of nature on top of it. It's a BREEAM Outstanding building, and it received also two BREEAM awards. It's not maybe about the build, but about the idea, because we're not starting with architecture. We're starting first with how people could live together, or how, maybe for myself, how I want to work, or want to live in a city with a lot of other people, to have a nice living environment. I can show you, maybe this is not the project what I mean, but this is a big project we just won in Zwolle in the Netherlands. It's an innovation district. We also have a problem at the moment in Europe and the Netherlands. We have our building costs are going like sky high. So I learned today the average building cost in Ukraine, Kiev, is about 700, 800 euros a square meter. In Netherlands is at around 2,200 euros a square meter. So a lot of projects are not realizable. So we have here, it's a railway road station of Zwolle. And Zwolle is not a very big city in the Netherlands, but they want to be the fourth city in the Netherlands with an innovation hub. So they want to be front runner with science, front runner with art, front runner with innovations, and also for the whole northern part of. So it's way too big ambition. But we, together with MVODV, it's also a famous Dutch architectural company, we participated in the competition and we won it. If you scroll down. So this image is also about, if you talk about innovation, you talk also about having weird ideas. You have 100 weird ideas and you need only one or half good idea from these weird ideas to continue further with the innovation. But you have to have this climate, it's a very nice lit climate you want to have. Scroll down. So there's the area at the moment. This is a very ugly area, but it's next to the city center, next to the railway station, next to universities of applied sciences in Zwolle. Next. If you go next, scroll down. Yeah, this is a building from MVDP on the existing hall. We focus on the more or less the living area. If you scroll down. This is the hall. Yeah, scroll down. Way too many images. So what we did, we didn't focus on very spectacular architecture. We inverted it. The project Jonas, what I will show you later on, is more or less a standard building with a very warm heart in the inside. Here we transformed it that you have housing, small housing, but we focus on the collective functions. So we have collective living room, restaurant, workplace for people that live there, because they are also our entrepreneurs. Very flexible system, but also the landscape, together with the prints of the buildings, they feel that you have an outside living room. So that you focus on the collective living on this small neighborhood with very condensed housing, small housing. So we have also collective roofs. You have circular routes through the buildings that everyone can access. So you have a 3D collective landscape through the project to focus on this livability on this area. And the houses in itself, these are all made of wood. We have now full focus on wooden buildings in the Netherlands because of the CO2 discussion worldwide, and to meet the Paris demands. So on this competition also, the Paris demands of the reduction of CO2 is super relevant. Yeah. If you can go back to the project page. If you scroll down, here, that one. This is a project we did in 2017. We made a competition. It's just last year it was realized. The municipality, it was a tender from the municipality. They asked for sustainable building and sustainable icon. So a lot of famous Dutch architects participated in the competition. We were the lucky ones, also won this one. And also we started with the project. What we first always do with all the projects is have an analysis on the location. So we really understand how the site is, because we want to make specific architecture, not generic architecture. We also look at the assignment of the client. Is it really what he wants, or is there a question behind the question? So the analysis is very important. And then we come up with a concept or a simple idea. Not a one-layered concept, but there's a lot of storytelling in this only simple one drawing. Because it's in the river I, it's IJsselmeer, so it's an I and a G on the side. It has a collective heart, because it was an island, made on an island, with a green island where the kids always play. And the people from the neighborhood, because we had a participation also, they want to have the playground back in the project, so it's this open space, and it's on the water side, and especially the eye that it's very local architecture. So we want all our projects are designed for the spot itself, for the location and for the context. If you scroll down, so this is the project on the harbor. Is there also a drawing with the necklace of activities for some bubbles scheme? If you scroll down. It's very different if you do it from a website presentation. Okay, here this one, the necklace of activities. This one. So when I tell you that we're not starting with architecture, but we start with a program, a lot of projects we start with this. It's kind of a functional scheme. You can also explain it like this, but it's already with some storytelling with it, because we say, we start with an outside area, playground. The living room is the heart of the building, because we wanted to have a collective building, because the rooms or the apartments were only 50 square meters, less than 48, 49. Very small. But we also want to have a forest in the. We call it forest, it's a very small courtyard, but we call it a forest because of the dream. We have a rooftop with dune landscape on top of it, and then also a mountain path. So we charge also the architecture with storytelling in order for people to understand what the idea is behind it. And if you go through the project, or maybe it's good to go up because I have this explored view. This one. Then because a little bit not easy to understand on the right in the first place, because here's the landscape. So this is the canyon, so it's a gallery space, and here's the patio with trees also planted inside, and then we have the roofscape. Yeah. If you can you scroll down to this one, this is a plinth. It's also during the day completely public accessible. If you go down. So it's the facade. If you go down. Oh yeah, this is the main living room. So here's during the day, this is the main entrance where people arrive. We have a stair going up to the gallery space behind it, so we call it the canyon. If you go on the stairs, go to the left, there's a cinema. And in front of here, so where the line's coming from, you have this outside space where kids can play. You have also the entrance of the parking is underground, so you can sit in it. You have in summertime, you can watch a movie, but we have an outside movie screen also in the summertime. If you scroll, there's with some furniture also in it. And if you go to the canyon, it's scrolling down. So this is the inner space of the gallery. So we deliberately didn't make it very straight. We moved it around. And we made good lamellas from the top to the bottom. And you see the daylight. Here is the glass roof where also the landscape is, and during the spring and summer we have streaming water over top of it. So sometimes when you enter the gallery, the canyon, you see also kids playing, so they walk on the glass, and it's very spectacular. Yeah. Yeah, and the mountain path we made it because to connect the groundscape, the floor of the living room with the roof. So you can, within one movement, you can go up completely to the roof. And then you have kind of, so we don't talk with Jonas about the building, but as a living landscape. It's a little bit weird translation because in Holland it's called woonlandschap. So it's a better word for it. Translation doesn't always work, but it feels more like a landscape where you live in. And because at the moment, if you have an apartment building, you have an entrance, you have your elevator, your gallery, and your house. That is your mental space of architecture, of how you live in an apartment building. And we want to avoid this by having these different spaces inside the building, the patio, the living room, the roof terrace. But we also have tiny spaces also when the patio opens up, you can go to the water. There are collective spaces like the gym, workspace, a separate space. You can rent a hotel room if you have guests. Cinema also, what I told you. So there are a lot of collective spaces, and even on the roof bar, you have also, on the rooftop, you have a roof bar also that you can rent when you live there. So it's a way of new way of living, we think, in high dense areas. So we have all these amenities to live small, but with a lot of quality and a lot of extra functions also. And besides this, there's a lot of wood in the building. Facades are wood. We have a wood cladding of the facade. Concrete is with 30% circular concrete. And then a lot of other green regulation to make it very sustainable. So that's the only project I want to show you this evening. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of portfolio work. The most thing I think is interesting for me, that's why I'm visiting now at the moment. So yesterday I gave a lecture on the Rethink Festival about sustainability. Can I ask someone, what do you do with sustainability now at the moment? And what is it? What do you think is sustainability?
Situation in Ukraine, which in general, or like
in general.
Oh, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory that it's more of a prefab scene of buildings.
Prefab?
Yeah, prefab. It's usual. Bricks is the most common, I would say, material, maybe like concrete. It's not really popular to use wood or like something that would recycle it.
Recycling?
I mean, not really the big scene. It's like
Okay. Someone else?
Yeah, that's probably a wise usage of materials and designing buildings to serve a purpose, even if the main purpose, original purpose of it is expired. Even if you don't use it in the building.
Then you don't destroy it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you use
so
it.
circulation, energy.
Yeah.
That's a good one. More? Oh, we have the from Wikipedia. Okay, mention it.
Now, my thoughts about this sentence. Sustainability is manifested not only in the strength of structure, but of course it's an important component of this concept. The moral part, the idea and the symbolism makes the architectural object sustainable. And this stability manifests itself in historical imprint, which each succeeding generation perceive through the prism of historical context. Якщо комусь треба переклад, то можу трошки.
Okay, but the question is, do you understand it? What it means?
Yes, I wrote it down and I understand everything, but.
Can you mention three things you would do in your project? You're an architect, or not?
No, I'm a student.
Yeah, but you're an architecture student.
Yeah.
What three things you do in your projects to be sustainable?
I have a language so
Huh?
I have language barrier, so
Yeah, but just otherwise someone translates it.
ну, історичний, як це правильно сказати, контекст історичний,
Historical
і дивлячись,
context.
над чим ми працюємо. Тобто і місцезнаходження важливо, ну, ділянка в центрі, чи вона поза містом, типологія
Depends on the location of
об'єкту.
the building.
Тобто багато нюансів, але я вважаю, що це три найбільші складові.
So context,
Historical context,
Historical context.
place,
Context of the place where, or neighborhood where it's building.
yeah.
surroundings and typology of object.
What has the most impact?
Of it, I think.
So on the worldwide, if we have the Paris Agreement, what has the most impact on sustainability as we as architects do?
Unreusability of space.
Maybe
The space, no animal is killed by space. Only when it's too little, when they're squeezed. But yeah, it's CO2, carbon dioxide.
Decarbonization is called.
Yeah, but carbon dioxide. Mobility, your petrol, carbon dioxide. Concrete, carbon dioxide. Everything you do with machines on petrol, carbon dioxide. The whole building process, carbon dioxide. Almost all the projects produce carbon dioxide. And you know and then what happens is when it's warming of the world, so we have 24 degrees in the beginning of April. There is a page from, can you go to Orange Architects? You click on it, you can click on, yeah, and then go to concept one. And then you go to get up, if you go down, and show. Then if you don't go to together, I think it's fine. Scroll down, scroll down. Yeah, if you have a screen. It's too big container work, sustainability. It's too big, so don't worry, it wasn't kind of a test, but I think if you ask this in Dutch universities, a lot of students know exactly, they are well more educated on what to do in sustainability. Why? Because the European Union demanded, clients demanded, so the whole also education is now fully aware of it, and I think it's less in Ukraine, but it's way more also very much important for the rebuild of Ukraine and also for the transition of a lot of buildings from Khrushchev time has to be rebuilt, re-renovated, isolated, etc. I will explain you what we did last 2 years with our office to have a comprehensible, as much as possible, idea on the too big container word of sustainability. So we split it up in 3 main themes. So world is about the resources, and resources is materials. That's an important one. So have less energy consuming products or products that hold, for instance, CO2, wood, but it's not. You did it before, but now in the last 50 years, not anymore. So materials, energy. Energy is now, what is the temperature now here? I think 22, 23.
Something wrong.
Mm-hmm. In the Netherlands, we don't have, if it's 23, everyone is putting the windows open, it's too warm. We have 90 degrees at home. 20 degrees, then it's already hot. And it takes a lot of energy to go to 20, from 20 to 23. The gas prices in the Netherlands also raised last 2 years from 30 cents per cubic meter to €1.50. In my house, I only heat up the living. I have 3 kids using the shower almost all day. It's also taking a lot of gas. But I have my energy account is, because it's metered per house in the Netherlands, it's around €300 only to heat up the living room and the shower. Well, yeah, I cook in gas also. So you can't afford it anymore. And I think this will also be in the future for Ukraine, not to scare you off, but energy prices will go up. So energy, nature, and materials. That are the main things that the earth can give us as materials, as resources. So for energy, it means isolation. So we have a mild climate in the Netherlands. Our isolation package is like this, of isolation wool. What is it in Ukraine at the moment?
It's about how to size. It depends on the material. It's usually it's like something about.
And your winter temperature is?
Outside.
Yeah.
The average, like I would say, like -5, -10, maybe even lower. Sometimes lower, sometimes higher.
And the inside temperature?
In the winter, like heated up,
Yeah.
it's I would say 18, maybe like down to 16, maybe 22.
Serious?
I mean, sometimes it's really cold,
In the
and you
winter?
like have to walk in.
But you can't get it up more, or it's not.
No, you can get it up. It's just prices, like no usually that.
So we do this for the energy, so a lot of isolation in the materials. So and also the detail, we really have a fine look at it. And for nature, we have now, since 10 years, the Dutch Landscape Office are also, before 10 years ago, we had 5 major ones in the Netherlands. Now at the moment we have maybe like 15, and their offices are from 10 people to 40 to 50 people per office. Because every project we do, we have a landscape designer. A landscape designer not only put the landscape around the building, but also on the building, and have biodiversity inside it on the facade. So Jonas, it has bird nest, bat nest inside the in the facade. It has mussel banks inside the water. It has stones for the fish that they can lay their eggs. So we have a lot of these kind of measurements because of the biodiversity in the cities. When 20 years ago, when you had a car and you drove on the highway, you had this insect on your windshield. You don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So you already know that there's a lot of things are dead or not existing anymore, or not enough. So that's the resources from Mother Earth. And that's a very important one for us also as architects, is how you, within the project, how you live with each other. So the social aspect, we have the well-being, so it's a mental aspect. So it's in between, but also for yourself, and it means light, house, space, experience, etc. And the health. So the sport is how you move, not with an elevator, but maybe with stairs. So this is the human part of it, and then the value is also about what you mentioned, also about context. Every project we put in the city, it has to make the city around it also better. And it has to connect also with the people around it, so it's about community. So for instance, the living room for Jonas is also accessible for the people in the city. We have the movie theater, it's programmed with schools around it. So in that sense, you always also think about how does a building also can be used as a catalyst for the neighborhood to make it a nicer place to live in also. And also the other one is the economical part. By making new buildings, you can also make the environment better. Then it's also for the shops, for the cafes, but also the property next to it, they will rise in value and not drop in value. This is also sustainable because if you make bad neighborhoods, your building will last not that long, as you also mentioned before. Then you have to demolish it or you have to transform it earlier. And you have to do also new materials in, etc., etc. So the better the building is, the longer it will last, the less material it will have, the less CO2 and energy you will use. So basically these are the main topics. We have each topic is also divided in subtopics. And so this is also how we deal with sustainability in our office, and we have sustainability reports. And the last thing I want to say to you, because this is even more boring than I was talking about now about sustainability, you have the European law, it's called EU taxonomy, and that makes sustainability also a value. It gives it a value because investors, big investors, because projects like Jonas is not sold. Yeah, some houses are sold, we have sales housing in it, but also a lot of apartments are bought by an investor because they are rental apartments. That's guys with a lot of money, and they have to, all the companies in Europe above 40 million per year, they have to make a sustainability accountancy report. So the accountant normally only did the financial part, but now they also do the sustainable report. It's obliged, you have to do this, it's by law. It means, for now, they don't have to do it, they only have to say if they do it or not. And if they do it, how it is measured, and it's done with the EU taxonomy. So remember this, because if Ukraine wants to connect with Europe, you also will have, in the end, it's not tomorrow, it's also not within a year, 2 years. But it's important for the rebuilding process, because if you, when you graduate and you are coming on the market and you start making buildings that are funded with European money or American money or on the world market, it means that they have the asset, so the building and the asset will be in the financial markets. If they are sustainable, they get a higher value than the ones that are not sustainable. Keep this in your mind, because this is an important one, how you reimagine projects. As architects, we're not only making beautiful, nice facades, etc. We're also thinking about these kind of things, because that is also why we can make these kind of projects. If we do the project for this wall, the first one I showed you, after 2 days, communicating with the client, I explain about this wall, and what we are going to do about sustainability, because it's a very important one. And in the end, I think sustainability is nothing else than making a very nice, livable environment that is made with products in relation with nature. It's what we did for millions of years, only not the last 200 years. So it's also not a weird thing to do. And with UN, we try to help future generations. So we also have workshops. We are organizing in the Netherlands, but we're also looking for ways how to organize it in Ukraine. We don't know exactly how, but it's also nice maybe that you heard about UN. Rospit is also, we're also talking with Rospit how we can connect also. In order to get this things. So that's only my part, so it's a short story.
Хтось має питання?
What is the usual thought process of developing a project like with MVRDV, Minimas? What's the usual targets despite the pleasing of the developer or something like that? What's main points in which you emphasize while developing a new typology or a small district? Let's say that you take a project with non-problematic landscape or place in the city.
We're doing now in Kiev the project Nouveau for Kowalska. It's a high dense area. I explained to you why we are for high density, because you condense and you can make.
It makes sense.
As a human race, we're not making cities more wider, consuming more nature, etc. So we're responsible for our own things. The spaces in between the blocks, they're very nice landscapes. Programmatically wise, we have inside the blocks. We also have the collective spaces. We have bike storage for bikes. It's also good for cities. And so we have a very lively print. We have our program, one of the MVRDV making the office buildings, and we are doing the hotel. We also have the nature inclusivity also inside the. So there's a lot of things in the story that I just told are incorporated also in the project. We are looking, is it a sales project, is it a rental project, is it for the long term? Who are the clients, who are living there? What do you think, how it could work? Because an office area is different, of course, than a living area. So this point of view, we are always looking how to, not making walls and floors, etc., but maybe to see how the whole ecosystem is working, how people are working, living inside the buildings. And then the building is a result of it. So architecture is nothing more than a tool That is how we look at it. It's nothing more than a tool instead of a goal. But it's not the main goal. The main goal is to have you sitting in this kind of space. That there's a bar that you can meet. That there's nice light coming in. It's
Processes inside.
yeah.
Okay.
I have a question about classic architecture. Like, if it's not a big problem, because we don't have left a lot, but as a person who lives in that city with, I don't know, probably half or more percentage of original buildings, how could we make old buildings sustainable without interrupting into the structure a lot? Because yes, they have thick walls, though the ceilings and the whole volume of the rooms are big and you need to cool it, or vice versa. So, like, what is the answer? Could be.
Yeah, I'm not a transformation expert, but there are different techniques. You can isolate it from the inside. That's a possibility. You can also have box-in-box principles. So especially when you have very big buildings that consume a lot of space, you can use box-in-box. So that are the main two principles you can use for isolation. Because if you have the thick walls, you have to put or in the outside or in the inside, or somewhere more in the inside with the box-in-box principle.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you for a lecture. Another question? Or mine?
There's a question.
Okay, can I
You first.
you talked a lot about corporative function of buildings, and I want to ask you about how can we convince our developers that it can be a win-win situation, like to people that live in that place and to developers maybe can you just give a short list who can be benefits for that?
I didn't understand the question. Sorry. You said how can we convince?
Yeah, about collective functions, like collective space and something like that.
Yeah. What we did, we also had to convince our clients. I even had a fight, not with Jonas, but another project. We had fights because the client said, Patric, we're not building free spaces. We don't do this. You don't understand how it works, development. I said, no, I'm not asking you to make free spaces. I only ask you to, in your Excel, so we make every house 1 meter smaller. So if you have, let's say for instance Jonas, we have 300 houses. We make them all 1 square meter smaller. They pay the same, right? So they pay, there's a maximum amount on the rental farms for €1,000 per month. It's a lot of money, by the way. 1 meter, you make them small. So for €1,000, they don't get 50, but 49 square meters. If you collect all these 300 square meters, you have a collective space. So people pay for it. Only they share 1 square meter to everyone, and therefore you experience it also that because it's free to use, that it's yours also. It's not yours, but you experience it like this. So people that can walk freely through Jonas, for instance, or the other projects with collective living rooms, they think it's from them. And I think this is nice, because then it's also used. And the other thing, if you have collective spaces, it only works if you have, let's say even if you have apartments of 200 square meters, it doesn't work, because people are living already within their house very well. And it also doesn't work in the Netherlands for sales housing, because for sales housing people tend to go more inside their house instead of rental housing. And we also maybe back again to how you pay for it, or how the developer is paying for it. So the developer understood it, but not the investor, because the investor has in an Excel €18 in Holland, €18 a square meter per month. Per year, rental price. So it's a kind of a number on all investors' heads. It's a fixed number. It's €18. If it's €80, that's fine. Above it, it's even better. Above it, it's a no-go. So we also, with the developer, he understood our story. Then he went to his own investor, because it was Amvest Development, and the Amvest investment company was buying Jonas. And they said, yeah, sorry, 18 years, 21 years, not possible. You have to do something else. And then the developer came back to us, they don't want to invest. And we said, why? Yeah, because it's 21 euros. And then we said, can we explain it to them? And then we explained it, that for the 21 euros, you get a roofscape. It's really a landscape with flowing water. You have a rooftop bar, you have a movie cinema, you have, and I named everything. And then they said, for 21 euro? That's cheap, where can I sign? But they have to understand, because they work always on the same thing. They do it always like this, and that is like difficult to convince, but you have to convince them with things.
My question would be more war related though, so we have a war going on here. Anyway, I see you get a clear picture of what's going on here. You've been there not once and not even twice. But in the West, there are people far less aware of what's happening out here. And there's an architectural biennale happened last year. And Ukraine was present here once in a long, long time. So our team of architects dedicated this pavilion to represent a war happening in Ukraine through different narratives, uncommon and common even. So my question is, probably you've been here or some of your colleagues did, does this do a work to portray to foreigners a war that happened in Ukraine? And if it does, what can we do as an architects to contribute to it? Or should we even do this?
To contribute to?
To contribute to sophisticating the problem, the war in Ukraine, to architecture.
Do I understand the question? What do we have to do? Sorry, it's not really. What do you want? What is your main?
I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you. I probably understand that you observed people
Yeah.
that was in the Biennale, and did this do a work for them to understand, to be aware of the war?
Jesus, that's very difficult. I don't know. I have to explain. I have to explain in the Netherlands. When I explain that I'm part of UNUM, they say, "What the fuck? Why? You're an opportunist." Because they think that I only do this for earning money. But if someone is dying and the doctor is helping, nobody is asking. So, maybe yes, it's opportunistic. But for the last 2 years, I didn't get paid for anything, all the things I did. But yes, there is work to do in Ukraine. And yes, I want to help in this. But a lot of people, they're not into. Sorry, a lot of people are not interested. It's too far. Or they think, yes, it's terrible. But if you ask them, hey, you want to help? Then they're gone. Yeah, it's.
I know it's a tough one.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, you don't have to be sad about it, because then you can do it your own. You don't have to fly in architects from the West making a complete design for you. You have to do it yourself. The only thing is you have to have good education. And I think Oleg will do, but Oleg is not that big with his school. But this is the most important complaint also from the people that I met in the Netherlands. That it's still a thing to solve. Education, corruption, to do something. And what is good about now is that a lot of things are coming from bottom up now at the moment. So that a lot of people start to believe that they can make a change. And that is something else than 10, 15, 20 years ago. Not a lot of people have this. And I think if you encourage this, and you embrace it, and you believe in yourself, that you can make a change, I think then it's very good, because then it's coming bottom up. It's also counterproductive and counter working on corruption, because if you're well educated and you have power, it's also difficult to be corruptive. I was in Romania also half a year ago. I also had a talk about sustainability, and an architect came to me and said, "Yeah, we can't do this here. The clients don't like it, and I'm not allowed to do something with it, because I have to exactly do what they ask me to do." He said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Yeah, it's corruption." Yeah. And I was sitting with him on the table, the dining table. We were talking about cars. That's what guys do sometimes. And I was starting my car, he's starting his car, and he said, "It doesn't matter what kind of car. It's an Audi A6 Quattro. It's a fucking expensive car. You bought it. How can you not be interested in having this kind of car?" I said, "Yeah, but I didn't bought it." I said, "But who did that? Who's buying for you a car?" "Yeah, my client."
Yeah.
Yep. And I looked at him in the eye. I said, "Don't talk to me about sustainability and that you're not allowed to do things. You're sorry." And then the coin fell down in his head, and that's also part of it. So if you just are not in this system and you work for yourself and you're just powerful enough, but it's not with believing it. It's and with the power to design. Simply said and done.
Yeah, and another question some girl asked Oleg, and we want to know your outlook on it. So there's a lot of countries contributing to Ukraine in rebuilding. For example, Norman Foster is designing a master plan for Kharkiv and so on, and they are engaging their specialists in it. So what, as a young architects, can we learn from it, and is it really...
But you mean that Norman Foster is flying in and doing this thing,
Not himself.
leaving, and then you say, asking me what you can learn from it?
Does he? He flies here?
But what do you mean then? What do you mean that Norman Foster is coming? How many Ukrainian architects are involved in this?
I don't know. We've asked Oleg about it. He mentioned some intellectual occupation of architecture. So is it a threat for us? Architectural occupation from another countries, or is it a
It
opportunity?
ends up, and if there are four names only, every time I'm asking who are the main architects from, name architects from Ukraine, and you always end up with four, then you will have this. Then another Western American architects, Japanese architects are flying in. So it should be more than four to start with. Start with education, start with yourself. You have to fight for it, I think. Another thing you have to do. Because otherwise, I'm also sitting in a car today, and they say, "We want to work with you, etc." I said, "Yeah, but I want to. Can we also work with the Ukraine office? Because first of all, I'm not gonna do the complete design. I can't do permits. I don't want to do it. So I also want to work with the Ukraine architects if we work here. And we are now also looking for ways, if we have new assignments, that we also have a Ukraine architect in the team for education purposes also. That we're not doing something from far away here. So it's also that you can demand on a higher level. Maybe it's fine that you have external people flying in, but you have to do it always together with Ukraine architects. So you have I think in that sense the system has to change, but it will not come from top down. Nobody on the top will say, "We have to do it like this. You have to do it." Do you know how to protest? No. You have to let your voice know. some way or the other.
I can say that Ukrainian architects really don't like this work of Foster because they think they can do better because they know context of Kharkiv more better than Foster. And I really appreciate that you think that Ukrainian architects must work with our project more than other architects from like other country, because we must to change the system in architecture in Ukraine.
Yeah, but then you have to. Then the education should be better. The students should be better. Should be creative. We also had people in our office, and we didn't give them a next contract. And they was asking, yeah, why? First we beat around. We didn't want to honestly tell. But then we said, yeah, sorry, you're not educated enough because we can't have people in the office that can't think freely for themselves. If every time an architect asks me, what do I have to do now? For me it's weird, because they have their own opinion, and I want to discuss them on a level I want to level with them. I'm not going to tell them you have to do exactly like this, how I want it. That's not how we work in the office. Our office is that all the architects, so we give them an assignment, so let's say start working and study the facade. And sometimes people come with 10 options, and they show 10 options. And they said, okay, what am I looking at now? Yeah, 10 options. I said, why 10? And they said, yeah. And they started explaining that our big windows, small windows. I said, why 10? And they said, yeah, I can make more. I said, okay, how many? Yeah, I said, you can make unlimited more, because I don't want to hear it. I want to know why you make one, why you make the second, why you make the third. I don't want to see numbers, I want to see why you do things. And a lot of people can't tell me why they do things. So the question why in your work, if you can answer this, it's not easy, but it's all about it. Because if you can tell why, you also can convince other people. And it's also, if you convince, then you can convince also a mayor. Because if he says, yeah, nice, can you make it higher? I said, no problem, I can make it higher. Then you're weak, you're not strong enough. It's also not that I don't mean stubborn. So no, I don't want to make it higher. You have to explain why you make the designs you do. And I think that's a very important one. And it's all about education.
Yeah, and that's a pity, because that's what we do in our Kyiv University. We just basically come out with 10 options, but who needs it? Why?
May I ask a question? Could you please say some advices which educational resources can help us to know more about sustainable architecture and sustainability development?
And also, could you recommend some overlooked or under the radar, like urban planners or sustainability like programs? Maybe that's something like a research, yours or like your
Yeah,
colleagues.
maybe some courses.
Yeah, okay, we
Something to
have,
read. Yeah.
we have our work we value. We have a kind of booklet of I can send it anyhow. What I can do, if I have a list, an email from someone from you, I have the one. What I can do with our office, we can make a list of things what are interesting for you to read at, to investigate. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how to look for things on Pinterest and Google and this kind of things, but maybe inside information. I can share something about the EU taxonomy. They understand a little bit how the European law works, because it's moving very fast. 2 years ago, nobody had ever heard of it. And now, even in the Netherlands, it's like every day it's changing. So it's everything. Every day you think, let's say, wool from the sheep is very sustainable. The day after, wool is not sustainable anymore. Because if you do the whole calculation, how much the sheep drinks, eats, shits, it's a polluting source, for instance. And the knowledge about this changes super fast. But what I could do is make a kind of a list with information for you.
What are your thoughts on the projects like the Line and UAE, or like works of Patric Mayers and their office in developing like a sustainable or like researching a sustainable way of living as humans? Like where they did like more like rural objects, like small. I believe it was like something in the small houses, more like a greenery, a forest, crops, and that usually live like beside the trees and like I mean earth. What do you thoughts on those projects?
Sustainability can be a happy project. So if it's a small house in a forest, it's nice. The only thing it should be has an R value of isolation value of 6 on the roof, 4.5 in the facade. It has triple glass. It has non-gas heating. So these kind of elements, and it should have maybe a bird's nest inside the facade, and maybe a green roof also.
But what about the Line in UAE?
On the line.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
I mean, it's kind of old red, like.
Yeah, sorry, this is not
Especially the sustainable.
This is someone with too much oil money. Yeah, you end up in maybe
using the sustainable as a brand. Or
but it's not sustainable because if just from the point of view of a desert salamander, you can't even go to the other side anymore.
It's probably like the biggest infrastructure and like building project in all human history, probably like more than even the Roman Empire.
This has nothing to do with sustainability.
Yeah, it's like. I mean, it's interesting if it will fail, and like
it's
on the
already
stage
now,
of construction.
it's already now from 200 kilometers to 1 hour.
I mean, it was like next time. But like it's interesting if it will, even if it will be built, if like it's probably would fail in like in infrastructure inside or like sales, cash flow problems. Like it's probably a terrible project. Just terrible for ecosystems. Just throw money away and giant CO2 emissions.
It's not a good example.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all.